Some of our most impactful plays go far beyond the court or field. This is the Net to Net live show.
It's more than just a game.
All right, welcome back to our last episode of the semester of the Net to Net podcast. It's been a ride. It's been a journey. We're here now. Last episode of the semester, Monte. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling kind of sad, man. It's been a good 2 semesters that we've had of the podcast going, and the support we received on our social media pages just from people that we know, especially the Armenian community. It's been huge. What about you? Any emotions running through your mind right now?
Yeah, I'm sad it's our last one. I wish we could keep this going throughout the summer. I mean, summer I'm traveling, so that would be hard, but maybe we'll upload a couple of episodes throughout the summer onto Spotify, onto
Maybe
our platforms. We'll see about that. But we had a interesting last couple of episodes. We had a solo Monte episode. I couldn't make it at a concert in Montreal. And then I had a solo episode without Monte. He had some family stuff he had to take care of. But we're back here for our final episode, the both of us. How it should be, In the last episode, I was like, I miss having Monte here to bounce off of. I was like, pause.
Whoa.
But yeah, we're back.
All right. Well, we're going to start off with today's soccer segment. This happened literally just this morning. I woke up, I saw it on Bleacher Report. Haig also texted me about it too. Haig, today, Kevin De Bruyne, arguably one of the greatest Premier League players of all time in terms of his tenure there, he's decided that almost after a decade, he's going to be leaving Manchester City with all the accolades that he received, about 10 plus trophies, however many it was. What are your initial thoughts on the news? Anything you want to say?
Okay, so Kevin De Bruyne, honestly, he has an argument for the best Premier League midfielder of all time. He definitely has an argument for that. He's definitely top 3. Just when you look at the things he's achieved, he won 6 Premier Leagues with Man City. He won a Champions League with Man City, their first ever in their history. He won 2 FA Cups, 5 League Cups, a Club World Cup, was Player of the Season, for the Premier League for 2 years. And he's just an outstanding player. This season he has had his struggles, with age. He's always had a bit of issues with injury. This season, it was very apparent that his legs, father time, has caught up with him. He wasn't the player he used to be. He still can show you flashes, don't get me wrong. He's still, technically, with football IQ, he's an amazing player. But I think he realized, the fans realized, the club realized, everyone realized that it's best for both parties if they go their separate ways at the end of the season. And, yeah, he announced his decision this morning. As a Manchester United fan, so a rival fan of Man City, I will be sad to see him go, because at the end of the day, he's a legend of the game. He's a legend of the league, and yeah, he was a rival player, but what a player he was.
I thought you were fully about to say something about I'm so happy this guy's out of here, get him out of here. But yeah, it's an ultimate sign of respect. Yeah,
I would be even happier if he stayed, because he's not that good now. He sabotaged Man City. That'd be pretty good for Man U's hopes. But in terms of Man City this season, they, despite how bad they've been, they still have a shot at silverware, because they just made it to the Cup semi-finals, if I'm not mistaken, by beating Bournemouth. So it'll be a very Man City of them to play bad and still come out of the season with a trophy, because now they're in the FA Cup semi-finals after they beat Bournemouth 2-1 over the weekend. And yeah, they're going to do it again, and I'm going to hate my life, because they're going to win more silverware. Man U's going to finish 14th, 15th, and they're going to just gloat. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, with Kevin De Bruyne, he's just one of the most, like you said, definitely has an argument to be considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Premier League midfielder of all time. But just the fact that he was such a complete player too. I mean, he was so well-rounded in terms of his scoring he could provide, but mostly his vision in the final third was just something that you can't replace. And obviously he's on a little bit of a decline just because of his age, but just throughout the years. His vision in the final third, his playmaking, his ability to see things that other players can't. It's going to be very hard to replace that, just even from a core memory standpoint.
Yeah, it's a season of, I guess, legends leaving. We got Kevin De Bruyne this week. Last week it was Trent announcing his departure from Liverpool, and I know Liverpool fans were not happy about that one. But I discussed a bit on our last podcast, and we'll see. Maybe there's more surprises to come. Maybe some more players are going to leave their clubs, because I think players are starting to realize that if I'm a big name and my skills, my stamina isn't where it used to be, there are still a lot of opportunities for me, whether that's in the Saudi League, that's in the MLS, or maybe he moves back to where he started. We see a lot of players do that. Maybe he'll move back to Belgium or back to a Bundesliga club. A lot of options for De Bruyne still, for sure. Okay, let's segue into our basketball segment. And today we wanted to talk about the play-in teams. And more importantly, what can the play-in teams do to go from play-in to playoff next season? Or maybe some teams shouldn't go for playoff. Maybe some teams should completely bottom out. We'll see. We'll see what we think about those teams. But which team do you want to start with?
Let's start off in the Eastern Conference, just because I think it's so funny to me. It's like every year the same teams in the East are making it to the play-in, and it's just becoming a joke at this point. But for the Eastern Conference, shocker, it's the Orlando Magic. Actually, that one legitimately is a shocker. The other three are not. The Atlanta Hawks, you got the Chicago Bulls, and you got the Miami Heat. I'm going to start off with the Orlando Magic just because I think this season has been kind of a nightmare for them. I mean, last year they were like the Cinderella team of the league almost. They went from such a joke to being like a 4th seed, 5th seed type of team. They had the best defense in the league last year, and honestly, somewhat, I'm not going to say very good, but somewhat serviceable offense. This offseason, they went out and they acquired a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and people were saying this is the move that can probably get them up to that 3-seed spot, but, you know, just with their health being so bad this year, and, Jalen Suggs was injured for a lot, Franz, Paulo, they've just been falling into this play-in seed range. But one thing I'm going to say about the Orlando Magic, they have not lost what makes them the Orlando Magic, and that is them being an elite defense. They are number 1 in opponent points per game, so they give up the least amount of points in the league. Top 3 in defensive efficiency, and you know that you have core guys to build around. You can't question the talent of Paolo Banchero, especially his efficiency taking a leap. That was one of the biggest question marks around him. Franz Wagner, same thing. He was literally averaging 30 for a good stretch at the start of the year. Jalen Suggs, really, really good defender. So overall, you have some strengths to build with, but do you think that there's anything that they need to improve on? Because I know what they need to improve on, but I want to hear your take.
I mean, let's touch on the defense again. They just have elite defensive personnel. In the guard position, they have Jalen Suggs, who locks up. You have Jonathan Isaac giving you maybe the most defensively impactful 15 minutes off the bench ever. He's an elite defender, even though he can't stay on the court very long.
Yeah.
And when you talk about things they have to improve on, I mean, it's 100% the offense. They have not had a top 15 offense for, I think, the last 30 years. That's an insane stat. Top 15 isn't that hard to get.
Yeah.
To be this bad defensively, to be this bad offensively, and still not be a tanking team, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's not just them being a bad offense. I think even bad is considered generous. They are atrocious. Like, how can you have a top 3 defense in the league, but you are the worst offense in the league? Just listen to some of these stats. Dead last in 3-point percentage, second last in EFG, which is probably the most indicative measure of how efficient you are of an offense. Bottom 5 in 3-pointers made and attempted. And honestly, they're not a good rebounding team either. I mean, they create a decent amount of second chance opportunities, but they can't close out their defensive possessions. And also, they are dead last in assists. So they can't generate offense, they can't shoot threes, they don't attempt enough threes. And even with the addition of KCP, they are just, like, I don't know if I can say this, but they're ass. Like, I don't know how to say it.
I don't understand how this is the situation you're in when there's teams who are actively trying not to win.
Yeah.
How can you have a worse offense than teams who don't want to score, don't want to win?
What type of player do you think the Magic can get that can really help them? Like, what type of mold of a player?
I think if they had gone for Zach LaVine, that could have helped them. So the offensive firepower doesn't bring much defense, but I think the team has enough defense to cover up for that. He could have generated his own shots, generate open shots for other players, and I think he would have really added something to this Magic team.
Yeah, they need spot-up shooting. I think like a Malik Beasley type of player would be really good for them. Like you said, they need to figure out their bench stuff because I don't know what's going on there. And another point they mentioned, reliable center health. You can't rely on Jonathan Isaac to give you 60-plus games, Wendell Carter to give you 60-plus games. And I think they definitely need a playmaking point guard, someone that can just open up the floor for Paulo and Franz, like a Tyus Jones type of player who's very selfless.
Yeah, I mean, Wendell has been bad this season.
Yeah.
One person you can rely, Goga Batazzi, he's been, whenever you need him, he steps up. So shout out to Goga. But otherwise, yeah, their center depth needs to be addressed this offseason for sure.
All right, Haig, give me another play-in team that you really want to touch upon.
Let's segue to the West now. Let's touch upon the West.
Going back and forth, east to west.
Yeah, let's go back and forth. We have the Kings. Let's talk about the Kings because they made a bunch of moves, right? Traded Fox, traded for Valanciunas, got back Levine in that Fox trade. They have DeMar now. And they're still the 10th seed, despite all those. They have great names. They have pretty good names on the team. You look at DeRozan, you look at Levine, you look at Valanciunas, you look at Sabonis.
Monk is really solid too.
Yeah. They have great defenders, Keon Ellis. But they're just not a great team. What do you think's holding them back?
I think what's holding them back is just, it's kind of like the issue that they had with the Chicago Bulls. I mean, when you have DeRozan and Levine on the same team, there's too many of the same archetype in terms of their perimeter scoring. But also, I think that they lack a true physically imposing guy at the center position. I think Sabonis is more built to play as a power forward, and sometimes teams will take advantage of that and putting him and a weaker guard like Malik Monk in the action. And one thing that I will refute, Haig has elite ball knowledge, but this is one of the few times I disagree with him. You used elite defenders in plural.
Defender.
I think their only true point of attack guy that they can rely on is Keon Ellis. They're very flawed in terms of their defensive physicality on the perimeter and the interior. I think even with enough scoring talent that they have, it's too glaring. And their front office is a damn mess. I mean, they had two franchise cornerstones that they could have built around, said, nah, we don't want Halliburton because we think Fox will be our guy. And then you end up losing both. What about you? What do you think about the Kings?
I think they're in a very precarious situation because it could all be blown up. We had reports of Sabonis saying if there's not a clear path this offseason that he might request a trade from the Kings. And once Sabonis is gone, where does that leave you? You're not going to get back a crazy amount for Sabonis. It's going to leave you with the old DeRozan and once again Zach LaVine in purgatory. The poor guy's been in like a limbo state his entire career. I just want him to play winning basketball. I want to see him win. I like him as a player. I like him as a person. I feel bad for him in the situations he ends up in, but I think it might be getting close to time for the Kings to blow it up.
Yeah.
But it does depend on what you want from a franchise. If your goal is to have a relatively fun team, push for the playoffs, then I guess keep the team. Because it is true that the Kings had not been in the playoffs for like 13 years before that one season when they made it. But if your goal is to contend for a championship, then this roster is not going to do it. Yeah. There were talks I know you listened to a Kick in the Fourth Quarter. He in one of his podcasts he mentioned pot A versus pot B fans.
Yeah.
So a pot A fan is someone who looks at the bigger picture. Oh, is my team gonna contend? If we lose games now, is it better for a higher draft pick? Is it gonna help me? A pot B fan is, oh, did my team play good today? Who got good points? Did they win? If you look at the case from a pot B perspective, they could be a really fun team. They can pop out against big good teams, steal some wins, have some fun players, have some good plays. But from a pot A perspective, they're not going to contend anytime soon.
Yeah, I think, again, it just... I don't know what happened. They don't have any sort of consistency in terms of how they run their organization, and that's why I think they've been so bad even for the last decade. They ultimately scapegoated Mike Brown, and I thought that was a horrible decision. Mike Brown was a coach that got them to the playoffs for the first time in 15 years. He brought them a sense of identity in terms of how they wanted to play on offense, which was a lot of motion offense, those split actions that he brought over from Golden State. He was not the issue. And then they said, okay, Doug Christie can help us on the defensive side of the ball. They improved a little bit defensively, but not enough that it was worth firing a coach of the year type of guy before. And then their front office with Monte McNair, I mean, he's bringing shame to my name. What is this guy doing? He doesn't know how to build a team around the stars. He's just too focused on getting, scorer, but you're not rounding out your team well enough. And that's why the Kings, unless they rebuild, like you said, they are in Western Conference purgatory, which is the worst type of purgatory.
Yeah, the West is just so competitive that unless you're elite, there's no guarantee you're making the playoffs. You could be a good team and completely fall out of the play-in.
Yeah. All right. Switching it back over to the Eastern Conference now. This is actually, in my opinion, maybe it's a hot take, maybe it's not, the best team in the play-in currently right now, the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, I want to start off just by giving a shout out to their young core. Okay, Trae Young, I guess you can technically still consider him young, relatively young, no pun intended. I mean, he is one of the most well-rounded point guards, but yet I still think he's being so underrated. This guy is a superstar. Okay, elite scorer and the best playmaker, one of the best playmakers in basketball. He's leading the league in assists this year. Whether he should be traded or not is up to the Atlanta Hawks. I'll get into that later, but a shout out to Zachary Risashay, because when we recorded our rookie shout out episode, he wasn't on that list because he wasn't really up to par with some of his mates in the class, but he has taken huge steps forward, and right now he's looking like a top 3 rookie of the year candidate. Much more efficient, knows how to move in space, whether it's cutting, getting out. So he's starting to show his IQ of the game a lot more. And some other solid young guys, Dyson Daniels, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Jalen Johnson before injury, we know what he's like, and Onyeka Okongwu. But what do you think the Atlanta Hawks need to do, Haig, in order to get themselves out of play-in status?
I mean, we talk about we give all this praise to the Hawks. We like their players, but there's a reason they're in the play-in and not like the 3 seed, 4 seed. They've won 1 out of their last 5 games. They lost last night to AD and the Mavericks, and at the end of the day, it just comes down to what supporting pieces can Trae Young have to carry this team. Because Trae Young is the engine of this team. He is the system of this team. There's not a lot of players who are the system. I think Trae Young is the system when it comes to this team. They tried pairing him up with DeJounte Murray. That didn't work too well. They traded DeJounte and got back Dyson Daniels, who's been a great addition. What would they call him? The Great
Barrier Thief. That's
yeah.
low-key tough.
The Great Barrier Thief. They tried making some moves, getting Karis LeVert, getting small pieces here and there. But at the end of the day, these moves aren't going to put you into the upper echelon of being a contender. So either they have to package some people and make a splash, or they have to really hope that one of their young people blossoms into a superstar. They have Onyeka Okongwu, who they've been waiting on for a long time, just in the sidelines. He's been behind Clint Capella, and finally this season he's started to take that starting spot. Obviously, Jalen Johnson, he's MIP candidate. He had some All-Star buzz going into that. So if he can make a stride and reach All-Star status, if Okongwu can play at All-Star level, and Dyson Daniels is one season isn't an anomaly, then I think next season they could make a push for the playoff in a much weaker East.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that the Atlanta Hawks are lacking is perimeter defense, though. I mean, I'll start off by shouting out their offense because they generate offense at a high level. They're top 3 in the league in assists, and they're top 3 in points per game. The efficiency comes into question here and there, but they can generate their possessions. Their defense is like atrocious as well. Like, I don't really use that word too much, but it's bad. Bottom 3 in points per game allowed, and they're giving up way too many threes. In fact, 3rd most in the league in threes given up, and they give up the most free throws. Trae Young, as amazing as he is offensively, he might be the worst defensive guard in all of basketball, and teams are figuring that out quickly. They'll put him into the actions, try to avoid some of the lengthy guys like Reece Shea and Dyson Daniels. And Onyeka, as great as he can be in terms of his length and presence, he's not physically imposing enough to, stay out in front of Trae Young and be that shady guy in pick and roll coverage. And like you said, as a front office, they need to decide what's best, whether it's, packaging Trae Young and hoping that their young guys take a legit leap, or they need to get a second complementary star next to Trae. And I use the word complementary because of what you said about DeJounte Murray. He was too similar in terms of the sense that he needs the ball in his hands a lot and he can generate a lot, and that fit just didn't work. If they get like a nice, spot up wing, a guy who can take some of the load there, then they can probably be a playoff team. But until then, they are a perennial play-in team. All right,
That
Haig.
is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because, Trae Young in the playoffs is just really fun.
Yeah.
We've seen him against the Knicks. That was an electric series that people still talk about to this day.
Yeah.
In the West, I want to talk about a team who's actually not even in the play-in right now. They've fallen out of the play-in. Currently the 11th seed. And that's the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Suns, they got off to a great start, if you remember. KD was carrying them through games. They had a 7-1 start, I think, to the season.
8-1, yeah. They were balling.
Something like that. They were amazing. It's finally gelling. KD is KD. Booker's looking comfortable. Bradley Beal was contributing. And then KD got injured to start the season. He got injured. They started losing games. And we were like, okay, he'll come back. They'll be back to what they were before. And that has not been the case. Just, let's look at it from a chemistry standpoint. This team is the most dysfunctional team I've seen in a long while because they wanted to trade Bradley Beal. Beal said, I know you don't want me here, but I'm still not going to waive my no-trade clause. I'm staying here. So now you have teammates who are going to look at you in some type of way because we could have gotten a better piece, and because of you, we're stuck. We're like padlocked at this situation. We're losing games. Our stars are getting older. We have no draft picks. And we don't really have any young stars. We have a couple of okay rookies who have had flashes this season. Our defensive rating is in the bottom 4. And we're completely out of the playoffs. How do they deal with the situation?
I just want to start off by saying something about the dysfunctional thing. That's one of the most underrated things about being a championship contender is having a sense of chemistry. I mean, every week it seems like on social media, whether it's like ESPN, Bleacher Report, a new clip is coming out of like KD fighting with his teammates, or like Devin Booker's on the bench throwing his towel. KD slapping Mike Budenholzer's hand out of the way. Like, they just don't look like they want to be out there. They don't look prepared, disciplined, like they're enjoying the game. But here's the thing. I'll get to Bradley Beal in a bit because this guy, the power he holds objectively is insane. Kevin Durant, for the rest of his career, can no longer play this GM card. Like, he has that Aaron Rodgers type of power. I don't know how much you watch football, but like, I'm talking about, like, he chains an organization to his hands and he says, this is the guy I want, this is the guy I want, this is the guy I want. He can't do that anymore because he's the one who wanted Bradley Beal. Back in Brooklyn, he's the guy who wanted Steve Nash as his head coach. It can't go on any longer because the more it happens, it's just starting to be a trend, as great as he is as a player. And in terms of the Phoenix Suns defense, I mean, when you're a rookie, Ryan Dunn is your best defender, you really have some issues. And Bradley Beal, what is there even to say about him? I mean, $250 million for average production at best, average consistency at best. And because of that contract, they now have 3 Supermax guys on payroll, and the rest of their bench is filled out with a bunch of vet minimum guys who are shooting 40% as a collective unit, bottom 5 in the clutch in terms of their offensive rating. They can't do anything. And Tyus Jones was supposed to come in and be a guy who was supposed to, take this massive play-making load off of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and he's been a flop. I don't know. And they're just not going to have any sense of consistency. They're already talking about firing Mike Budenholzer, and that's going to be like your third coach in 5 years? Monty Williams, Frank Vogel, him? I don't know. The Suns are cooked, and you're right. They're dysfunctional as hell.
And now the offseason is going to come. There's going to be even more talk of, KD's going to leave again. And it's going to be the whole thing all over again. Yeah. Like, the Rockets going to throw away some assets, trade for KD. He's going to come to the Rockets and be like, I want, like, PJ Tucker. Something. And they're just going to blow up their franchise, have KD again, and not win anything.
I have a question to you. Just because, this is something we mentioned even off camera when the Kevin Durant trade rumors came up. What's a team that you think could legitimately take, like, a title contending push if they acquire Kevin Durant, assuming that they don't give up too many assets?
I mean, I did mention the Rockets. I think they could, if they can, because they have a lot of depth.
Yeah.
A lot of depth. If they could, let's say look at their team, they give up Jabari Smith. They give up Jabari Smith, maybe even Jalen Green.
I don't know about Jalen Green, but like maybe
great.
a Cam Whitmore, maybe.
Cam Whitmore, and then like Freddie to make the contract match.
Yeah.
Something like that could equip them with KD and a lot of pieces around him. They'll still have Şengün, they'll have Thompson, they'll have Jay Shaw Tate off the bench. Well, he'll be starting probably now if they trade those people, but they'll be a really good team. They can make a push, but they'll still be young. So maybe not the Rockets, because I don't know if the timelines will align with KD and the young players. Maybe a team like the Grizzlies might be a better match because their players are young, but they're not as young as the Rockets. Desmond Bain is what, like 27, 27, something like that right now. So I think they could be a team. Who are your options for a KD trade?
I mean, it was reported that, the Rockets were one of the teams, but 2 other teams that could be really exciting were, in my mind, the San Antonio Spurs and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Those are 2 teams that Shams Charania reported, but I think the most exciting would definitely be San Antonio, because imagine how well-rounded of a team they could be. 3 high-level scoring talents, and I think they have serviceable enough defense to try to match that. I mean, I like Keldon Johnson's presence as a defender. I like, obviously, Wembanyama changes your defense eternally, so they can worry about some cleanups on the perimeter. Stephon Castle, that's kind of been his hallmark even since UConn.
Well, it depends if he'll be on the team after they trade for KD. Depends what you're giving up.
You think they'd give up Stephon Castle? I think he's untouchable. Like listen, I know untouchable is starting to become a light term because of what happened with Luka, but in terms of their timeline, it's untouchable.
Yeah, well, what would they give up then?
Okay, well, I know it's crazy because I just said he's one of the better defenders, but maybe like a Devin Vassell to maybe make the contracts match. They have still a lot of draft assets, even after the whole De'Aaron Fox trade, because people don't understand how pick protections work. They really did not give up that much to get De'Aaron Fox. So throw in a lot more draft assets. Devin Vassell and maybe a Malachi Branham. I don't know, something that the Suns could use to try to match his archetype to some degree.
And for the contracts, they'd have to throw in like who's on a big contract over there? Harrison Barnes, is he on a? I don't know who's on a.
Maybe they take Chris Paul back. Who knows? Phoenix, yeah, the 42 points. Bro, cut it to 42 points. Maybe we'll see. All right. Switching it over to the Eastern Conference again. Starting to get a little less exciting, but the Chicago Bulls. Okay, the Chicago Bulls. And obviously, me and you, we watch King of the Fourth Quarter, Kenny Beecham, a lot. When he says that the Chicago Bulls are starting to become an exciting team, and this is coming from someone who has constantly crapped on his own team a lot, saying, we're mediocre, we have no direction, this. They've taken a resurgence, especially in the second half of this season, and I think it's pretty exciting, but they are still a very flawed team. I will say this about the Chicago Bulls. They are a very underrated offense. People might not know this. They are 7th in the league in points per game. They're a top 3 scoring offense in the fourth quarter. A really good rebounding team. And they generate offense at a high level, top 5 in assists. What do you think has been one of the most exciting things about the Chicago Bulls this year, and maybe the biggest reason for their resurgence?
And one thing you talk about excitement. Before with DeRozan, he would like clog the paint up, mid ranges. It was a lot slower game. Right now they've been top 3 in pace this season, so that's something that's really contributing to them being exciting. And I talked about it a lot on last episode when you weren't here, but Kobe White and Josh Giddey have been just otherworldly, especially this like last month. They each have like a plus 10 to their points per game. They're outperforming their contracts by a lot, and that's gonna raise some questions when it comes to Giddey's extension this offseason. But I think just the fact that they kind of chose a direction. They traded DeRozan, traded Levine. They didn't manage to trade Vooch, but he's still around the locker room. He's contributing. The fact that they chose a direction and fans know that, okay, we have a young team now. Because in previous seasons, they were in the exact same position, but with a lot older people. Now, at least they're mid, but young. So there's hope for the future.
Yeah, this is kind of where that pot A, pot B conversation came up, because from the fan perspective of just like, wins, losses, how you're performing within games, the Chicago Bulls have taken a huge leap in the second half of the year. And like you said, that's a large part in them picking a direction. I still think they mismanaged their assets really badly in terms of the value they could have gotten back for a guy like Levine or DeRozan. But just seeing how Josh Giddey is performing, people are talking less about his on-court stuff now. Kobe White just won Player of the Month, and Matas Buzelis. I mean, he had some question marks here and there coming out of the draft, but he's looked really exciting. I think his rebounding definitely still needs to improve. And Vooch has been much better this year. I mean, last year he was probably the worst defensive big man in the league. Now he's like a league average kind of guy. And yeah, I think they're very exciting. I just think now their weaknesses come in terms of you need a true defensive big to help anchor out your defense. Because, again, I don't think Vooch is the solution there. They need to figure out how to assort their guard room because they have too many mouths to feed. Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Trey Jones. They need to figure that out. Yeah. So I think they can start to trade out some of these guys, depending on, what's their cap situation, to try and get some 3 and D guys back. Because their defense has been really, really bad this year. Bottom 3 in opponent points per game. They're giving up the most free throws in the league. Patrick Williams still exists. Like, bro, can you look at my notes super quickly? Just confirm this. One of their weaknesses, I literally wrote Patrick Williams' existence. They need to get rid of him.
Patrick Williams did hit a very big shot in that game where Josh Giddey hit the game winner. So
a rare shout out.
Rare shout out to Patrick Williams.
Yeah.
Do they still have Dalen Terry on the team too?
I have no clue.
Because I know Bulls fans were like talking about him last season. Oh, Dalen Terry's like, I've not heard anything about him this season. But yeah, when you look at their rookie, Buzelis So in like 2023, he was projected to be like the #1 overall pick for this draft because people were saying this draft is weak. Modest was one of the candidates for first overall, and then he played with the G League Ignite, correct?
Yeah, he did.
So he played with the Ignite, and his stock kind of fell after all that, and he went 11th overall. And right now, if you said in hindsight he would be a top 3 pick in this draft, and like in last season's draft, that would not be crazy to say.
Yeah.
Probably him, Stephon Castle, maybe Jared McCain in those conversations. So he's really good for their future. He looks like he could be maybe, hopefully, reach like an all-star level one day. I mean, we don't want to put like a ceiling on players, but who knows? Maybe it could be even more than that, but it's too early to tell.
Yeah, Buzelis's activity on defense is one of the biggest things that I've noticed. I mean, he's always has active hands. His length helps out a lot in terms of their pick and roll defense. He does enough until, you know, some of their guard defense gets exposed. I think Josh Giddey's improved more, which isn't much because he was one of the worst defensive guards at the start of the year. And Kobe White, as great as he is, he has issues there. So I think if they can get 3-and-D wings by starting to package out some of their guys in the guard room, get a true anchor on the defensive side of the ball in the interior. I'm not saying that they're going to be this massive Eastern Conference contender, but you'll definitely start to make the right steps towards getting out of play-in territory.
Trade back for Alex Caruso.
Nah, bro. Yo, I can't lie.
Get him back.
I can't lie. I thought that was such a huge L for the Bulls when it happened, but that's only because Josh Giddey last year was so unreliable in the playoffs. But do you think that trade now, I'm not talking about like, you know, when it happened, is starting to look a lot better?
For the Bulls, absolutely. I think for both teams, OKC got what they wanted. They didn't have enough, because Josh Giddey thrives with the ball in his hands, and he wasn't gonna get a lot of that with like the emergence of Shea, and he could have closed like fourth quarters anyways for the OKC. And so they got back Alex Caruso was gonna be a great defender for them in the playoffs, and the Bulls got back really young. Like, people forget how young Josh Giddey is. He was 2 seasons ago. He was like top 10 on the 25 under 25 list, and he fell out of that. But I think this season he'll be back on there because of the season he's had, the performances he's had. He's only 22, so a bright future for him. And I think the Bulls somehow came out of this trade with a W.
Yeah. So rare Bulls front office
Rare
W.
Accidental W.
Bro, I was smirking because as soon as you said under 25 and Josh Giddey in the same sentence, I just started.
Right.
Yeah, we won't get more into that. Anyways, any other Western Conference teams you want to talk about as we begin to wrap up the segment here?
Okay, in the play-in right now we have the Wolves, Clippers, Mavericks, and Blazers, looking in. Which one of those is most enticing to you to touch upon?
I kind of think it's unfair if we talk about the Timberwolves and Clippers because I texted you this yesterday off camera. Like, they're just anomalies because the Western Conference is so good. Mm-hmm. Those two teams are well above 500. So I think we should talk about the Blazers.
Okay, we talked enough about the Mavericks and...
I mean, Nico Harrison, God knows what's going on. Low-key, though, Anthony Davis, they're like 5-1 with him. I don't think they're going to do much without Kyrie being healthy, but that's a different question.
Right now in the play-in, they would face who? The Kings, right? It would be a 9-10 play-in. Is that how it works? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could probably beat the Kings. And then, who knows? They could maybe make it to the playoffs and face off against the Thunder.
Low-key, they've been owning the Thunder. I can't lie.
That would be a fun game.
Yeah.
That would be a fun game with... Oh, well, there's no Kyrie, but still. Okay, let's touch up on the Blazers. First of all, did you see the Blazers, the video and the website they made for Toumani Camara?
I didn't, no. Wait, what was it?
So they made a whole website for him, and a really hype promo video of why he deserves Defensive Player of the Year. Which, I mean, he's not going to win it, but it's really sick to see teams running out for their players like that. It was his full advanced stats, and then matchups of Toumani against LeBron, Toumani against Jokic, Toumani against Edwards.
You have to look into
it was
this.
sick. He was locking up. But yeah, the Blazers, they have a good team, right? They have great players. They have a solid team. They have a young team. They have Denny Avdia, who's been actually really good, especially in this month. Well, last month, in the month of March, he was exceptional. They have Scoot Henderson, who got off to a really poor start to the season, but has picked it up. People were saying some really outrageous thing about Scoot. They're like, oh yeah, he's going to be out of the league after this contract. He's not going to get a rookie extension. Like, I think that's just crazy to say. I think he, being a number 2 overall pick, was he? Yeah. There's
Number three.
Number 3. Yeah, he's not going to be out of the league. They have Shaden Sharp. They have Klingen, who, with Ayton being out, he's racked up a lot of minutes, so that's really good for their future. They have defenders and Matisse Thybulle, who just came back in the past month. And yeah, they have really good players. They have Delano Banton, Rexdale's very own.
Ex-Celtic.
Scarborough man, yeah. No, but yeah, ex-Celtic, ex-Raptor. They have a lot of great players, but they have not been able to put the wins together yet. And the thing is, I don't think that's what they were really trying to do this season. So I think that's okay. I think next season, if they can manage to find a way to shift Jeremy Grant, that'd be really big for their development. Maybe keep Ayan just as a veteran in the locker room, but I think they have to not make any splashes or any big moves necessarily, but just clean up the roster.
Yeah, I think the Blazers are a super exciting young team. I'm a really big fan of Shaden Sharp. I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring him up. I love Shaden
Did I
Sharp.
not mention him? I thought I did. Anyways, yeah.
Maybe you did. Denny Avdia, I mean, considering what they gave up for him and what his contract is currently, what is it, 4-year, $55 million?
Yeah, it's a good contract.
Absolute steal for a guy that can flirt with a triple-double here and there. Anthony Simons, I think he's low-key someone they can flip to a team like Orlando, get at least the first-round pick or two, just considering the trade market. That's definitely possible. But they have some young guys to build around for their future. Donovan Klingen, not Anthony Simons, Denny Avdia, Scoot Henderson's taken a bigger leap from his rookie year, which is another thing. NBA fans need to learn how to be a lot more patient, because everyone said the same thing about Darius Garland in his rookie year. He won't make it to his, the end of his rookie contract, and now he's an all-star. And I think if they can flip some guys around like Simons, Robert Williams, if they get some value, Matisse Thybulle maybe, Jeremy Grant, they can definitely have a young core to build around in a true direction. All right. Haig, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about just to wrap up this segment before we say our last goodbyes of the semester. It was a pretty shocking headline that came out with the Memphis Grizzlies deciding to fire head coach Taylor Jenkins with less than 10 games left in the regular season. What were your initial thoughts on that? Where did the Grizzlies go from here?
I mean, have we ever seen something like this where a guaranteed playoff team fires their coach 10 days before the playoffs? Because I don't remember this happening. Like, usually it's you do it in the offseason or you do it like in the beginning of the season, so the new coach has enough time to set his philosophies in place.
Yeah.
By doing this firing right now, whoever came in, the interim head coach, I know he's been great up in Europe. He was a great assistant coach. I forget his name.
Tomas Lizalo. I actually have him on LinkedIn.
Really?
I'm not even kidding. Last year I had him on LinkedIn. Awesome European offensive mind. He's one of the biggest reasons that a lot of their guys are starting to, take steps. Even their young guys like Jalen Wells, Scottie Pippen, Zach Edey. Like, these guys are having offensive production because of his acumen, bringing it over from a European mind. But yeah.
Yeah, but my point is that with however many games were left in the season, 10 games left, there's not going to be enough time for all of Taylor Jenkins' philosophies to get weeded out of those players and for them to learn how to play this new type of basketball that he wants them to play. I don't see what the difference is going to be. I don't see this really translating into winning playoff basketball. I think it could be good for next season. They could have a really new, exciting philosophy for next season, but in that case, why not just make this coaching change in the offseason?
Yeah, I thought it was way, way too late to make this type of move. I felt like it was going to be inevitable just because of like the discourse you see around Taylor Jenkins on Twitter from Grizzlies fans. I know Twitter's not a thing, but apparently his late game rotations were very questionable. They weren't maximizing Ja Morant's potential in terms of getting the ball in his hands and pick and rolls and letting him operate in that sense. But yeah, Taylor Jenkins, I think he's still a pretty damn good coach. Any team would be very lucky to have a guy that rides out for their guys in the media, comes from that Spurs tree. I just think it was way too late to make this move, and the Grizzlies are going to fail because of it. In fact, they're now like 1-3 under Lozalo, and that's not even his fault. It's just an uncomfortable position to be put in. But yeah, do you think that, you know, the coaching market nowadays is becoming too premature with the firings?
I think so. I think because even looking at my own team, people are calling for Darko's head after last season. They're like, "Oh, he's losing games. We're trying to lose games." That's the point of our team. We're losing games while being competitive, and people are calling for his head. Oh, like we don't like this rotation you made. Like, okay, he made a mistake. People make mistakes. I just don't. People are so impatient when it comes to coaches. And one thing I did want to say about the Taylor Jenkins situation, a lot of it was that there was rumors that Ja was unhappy because his role was minimized, and the offense wasn't put for his. It wasn't geared towards him, making him the central piece. But then, how can you expect the offense to be tailored to you when you're not here for half the season?
Yeah.
Whether it's through injuries, suspensions. You have not been part of the team for a big portion of last season, this season. So, I don't know. I don't get it.
And you can already see just kind of the behaviors that's happening after Taylor Jenkins' firing. He's a guy of accountability. And now you see probably John Morant's going to get suspended again. He started flashing, you know, like a gun handout towards the Warriors bench. He did it again after his game winner. There's fights on the bench with Desmond Bane and Santi Aldama. What's happening, man? Grizzlies are such a talented team, but they just need to be more disciplined, and this move should have been made in the offseason for sure.
And I don't get, like, I feel like the guns is, like, I've seen a bunch of people do, like, gun celebrations.
But John,
Like, people do it, but I guess with John Morant, like, it's different because of the history. I don't know. Like, am I going to get suspended from Spirit Live for, like... But...
suspended in the offseason is crazy.
It's like, I get a 3-episode ban. It just you solo with random guests.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, going to our last minute of our season here, I just want to thank everyone for listening to our podcast. The growth we're having on Instagram is great. We're trying to get our stuff out there, you know, get some clips going. Maybe get some guests. Maybe once this semester ends, we can, like, hit up some of our friends and be like, you want to talk about basketball? And just have them record ourselves talk and, you know, publish that as a mini podcast.
Next year can be generational in terms of the content that we can produce. But yeah.
Next year is my last semester at this school, actually. So,
Man.
you know, I'll be gone after that.
No, man. It was already hard enough to record one episode. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for the ones that listen throughout the episodes. You know, follow us on our socials page. Huge, huge shout out. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Thank you.
At FNTN_podcast on Instagram. Hit us up. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys next semester.
See you.
It's more than just a game.